Now with the latest weekend headlines, it's the ITV News.
Johnson meets Zelensky in Kiev. The Prime Minister has travelled secretly to Ukraine to promise weapons, funding and the backing of the British people.
Ukraine can never be bullied again, never be blackmailed again, never be threatened in the same way again.
It came as pictures emerged of the moment a missile hit a train station, killing dozens of refugees. Also tonight, is politics too taxing for the Chancellor's wife? His family say they'll be spending less time in Downing Street. And...
But up towards the line, what a way to go out! Sam Whaley-Cohen, a noble Yates.
The amateur jockey on his last ever ride wins the biggest race of all.
This is ITV News with Sameena Ali Khan.
Good evening. Boris Johnson made a surprise visit to Ukraine today, travelling to the capital for a face-to-face meeting with President Zelensky. The Prime Minister promised new financial and military assistance, including 120 armoured vehicles and new anti-ship missile systems. It comes after shocking images emerged of the moment a missile attack hit a train station in eastern Ukraine, killing at least 52 refugees. Our correspondent Peter Smith reports from Kiev.
The Prime Minister had not announced this. A visit to Ukraine is a high security risk and had to be kept secret. It's a show of support to meet President Zelensky while he's fighting for his country's future, but there was little time for pleasantries.
How are you? You're looking well.
Yes.
Unbelievable considering what you've been through.
The Prime Minister does know exactly how the Ukrainian leader is. The pair have been in regular contact, but this is the first meeting in person since Russia invaded. The top item on the agenda was weapons. The UK has now pledged to deliver 120 armoured vehicles and a new anti-ship missile system to Ukraine. It will be needed. Russia's invasion is about to intensify in Ukraine's east, having bombarded President Zelensky's country constantly for 6 weeks.
Today, you can see in your own eyes how our country looks like, you know, how our villages, how our settlements look like because of Russian aggression. There could be only one conclusion. It's our common conclusion. We have to exert even more pressure on the Russian Federation.
We, the UK and others, supply the equipment, the technology, the know-how, the intelligence, so that Ukraine will never be invaded again, so that Ukraine is so fortified and so protected that Ukraine can never be bullied again, never be blackmailed again, never be threatened in the same way again.
This is what the Prime Minister means. His visit is just 24 hours after the Kramatorsk train station bombing. Refugees targeted while they were huddled together, already at their most vulnerable. People crammed into the station in panic. They were only here because that renewed Russian invasion is expected in eastern Ukraine any day now. They'd come here to flee for their lives. Kramatorsk train station follows Bucha and Borodyanka. We have now witnessed a litany of civilian massacres, and that is why Ukraine says it needs the weapons and needs them now to push Putin's troops all the way back to Russia, with phase 2 of this war just about to begin. Peter Smith, ITV News, Kyiv in Ukraine.
24 hours after the Chancellor's wife bowed to pressure to pay more tax, it appears she'll be spending less time in Downing Street. Moving vans were spotted at number 11 today. Political correspondent Harry Horton is here. Harry, what does this mean?
Well, Rishi Sunak has had a difficult week. There's been questions about he and his wife's tax affairs. His wife, Ekshata Murthy, said last night that she would now start paying UK tax on all her international earnings. She said she didn't want her tax affairs to become a distraction for her husband. Today, we understand that the Sunak family have moved much of their furniture and personal belongings out of their Downing Street flat and into another one of their homes in West London. Now, sources close to the Chancellor say this has got nothing to do with the difficult week the Chancellor has had. It's been long planned. They say this is because the couple's eldest daughter is beginning her final term at primary school. But clearly, Rishi Sunak will be spending less time at Downing Street in the near future. Now, what does all this tell us? Well, look, Rishi Sunak 2 years ago was the most popular cabinet minister. He was seen by many as a prime minister in waiting. But in recent weeks, with the cost of living crisis, the pressure that that's having on people's pockets and the questions about his own political judgments have seen his political fortunes fall quite dramatically.
Harry, thank you very much. In the last hour, Pakistan's parliament has voted to remove Prime Minister Imran Khan from office. The no-confidence vote took place in the early hours of the morning after Khan's allies spent the day trying to block it. It's unclear if Khan will abide by the vote, which he has said is part of an American plot against him. On the eve of the French election, far-right politician Marine Le Pen has narrowed the gap with Emmanuel Macron in the race for president. Polls show Le Pen gaining ground with young voters. And the first all-private mission to the International Space Station has arrived in orbit. Axiom Mission 1 has taken 3 businessmen and an astronaut to the ISS. Finally, Rachel Blackmore's dream of a Grand National double fell short today. But for the only amateur jockey in the race, it was a dream come true. Sam Whaley-Cohen was on his final ride before retirement, the 50-to-1 outsider Noble Yates. And noble he turned out to be, pulling away in the final straight. Chris Scudder reports.
This was Aintree bouncing again and back to full capacity after COVID. But such a crowded field over treacherous fences always means fallers, and Rachel Blackmore's national love affair ended early at Valentine's.
Manila Times has gone at Valentine's.
But if that was heartbreaking for last year's fairy tale winner, a new romantic sporting story was moments away. Amateur rider Sam Whaley-Cohen in the orange was riding in his very last race at nearly 40 years old. His young horse, Noble Yates, had only had his first race over jumps 6 months ago, but here he was, battling with the favourite any second now for the sport's greatest prize.
What a way to go out! Sam Whaley-Cohen won the national.
It's been a love affair. To my wife, long suffering. They aren't all good days. That's beyond words. It's a fairy tale, it's a fantasy.
A fairy tale finish at odds of 50-to-1, and the whole Whaley-Cohen clan could celebrate. Noble Yates is owned by his father, Robert.
It was absolutely a dream come true. Sorry, I can't speak. I shouted too much. Just fabulous.
The winning jockey will now give up the saddle for his regular day job of running a dentistry business. But Whaley-Cohen will never forget the day he bowed out as one of the amateur greats, thanks to Noble Yates. Chris Scudder, ITV News.
A very happy family. And that's it. The weather forecast is next. But from all of us here on the Weekend Team, enjoy the rest of your weekend and good night.